Hi, everyone, and welcome to the last game of our current series, a 5-point match. And the score is 3-3. And since I said it's the last game, it's kind of a spoiler, but generally speaking, when you're two away, right, 3-3 to 5, in this case, then someone usually doubles fairly early, and it's DMP, right, double match point, basically. And that happens in this game as well. And usually it's someone who has just a slight early advantage, and that's all that it takes to really double at this score. So it's been back and forth, and now here's the last game. So let's see how it works. And of course, a lot of the decisions should be framed by the fact that it's basically double match points, so you're not worried about gammons, and you are trying to maximize your winning chances as opposed to any gammon chances or being gammoned or anything like that. Okay, so let's watch the game. There's definitely some things to learn from it, and hopefully the match as a whole will have been a good learning experience. Okay, thanks. Okay, so White gets the first roll, 6-3, right? Okay, so he correctly splits the checkers. In this case, the running is okay, running all the way, right? But I think in this case, White is generally the more experienced player, and White wants a complicated game. So this sort of split and down is generally the right kind of play, whether it's at this score or generally at more or less even scores. Yeah. Okay. So 6-3. And then Black rolls 3-2 and plays it rather passively. And as you can see, XG flags this as almost a blunder, a really substantial mistake. It's quite passive. It's a very conservative play. Doesn't really advance his position in any way, right? Doesn't get his back checkers moving. And there's no reason for this, basically. Remember, you're not really worried about being gammoned in this position. I guess this early there are possibilities, but basically, if we look at XG's recommendations, there's this one, which is quite exciting and interesting, right? Duplicating threes, right? So so basically, three to hit here, three to hit here, but developing his getting his home board kind of ready by slotting, but also bringing a builder down that can attack. And notice White is set up to build his own points as well, and some threes could be useful for that. And so yeah, it's basically seems like a risky move, but it's not really, especially since White hasn't had a chance to develop his home board, right? So quite an interesting move, and especially at DMP, it's perfectly satisfactory, right? Okay. And what's another option that Black can go for? So we've got right, splitting the back checkers and bringing one down, though as you can see, it's not quite as good, but still not bad. Okay, at least it does something with the 3-2. And so, like I said, the chosen move by Black is just too passive, especially for this score. If it's the kind of play that you would make if you had to save a gammon, for example, right? But Black isn't in that situation at this score. Okay. But then White comes back and makes a blunder of his own, and he plays defensively. It seems like quite a reasonable move, right? To make that advanced anchor, especially when Black hasn't advanced his own checkers at all, right? But the theme for this score is there's no need for safety, and so therefore White should take advantage of the opportunity just to make his own 5-point, which is quite strong. And then if Black hits him, right on the bar point here, then there's possibilities of hitting back, and and white will have the advantage because he's got 2 home board points, the 2 best points. So there was no need for white to play cautiously here, even though it seems like a perfectly natural move, because again, it's DMP, right? It's not gammon safe. Okay, so white makes that quite sizable error of playing conservatively as well. Okay, sometimes it's easier to forget. It just seems like, wow, safety, advance anchor, right? But now look what happens next, right? White thinks he's playing safely, and then all of a sudden, bang, he gets hit in a different place, right? Okay, so it's you can't predict the dice, and so do keep in mind what you think is a safe kind of move might in fact just the dice gods might have other ideas in mind in terms of what you're protected against, right? So let's go back to this position. If white plays 5-1 and then black rolls 5-4, you can see that black is at a serious disadvantage, right? He won't be able to hit on the bar point, and you can't move the black checkers. And so white will have a substantial advantage from that position. So you can't predict the dice, so try to play the best move according to the score and the situation, and don't always go for security, right? Sometimes, yes, but do think about the context. Okay, so black hits and gains in the race, right? White comes in, and he has 2 options with the 6. Okay, he comes in on the 22, and so he can either play out or play down, and it's pretty much equal. And playing down to white's own bar point makes some sense here, right? He's behind in the race, and so jumping out kind of is the move you'd play if you were ahead in the race, even though it's not a huge racing disadvantage, but generally speaking, when you're behind in the race, you don't want to race. Yeah, you want to stay back. But XG recognizes that there's not a huge difference here between the two. Okay, and that is probably partly because the racing disadvantage isn't too big after the roll. Yeah, and there's still a lot of flux and not much danger and stuff like that. So let's see. Okay, black rolls 3-1, and obviously hits at this point, right? That's the only useful move. Of course, playing 6-5 in this position, like making the 5 point with 3-1, is really only kind of a play you're going to play if white still has a checker back, right? And in this case, just have the 6 and the 3 shot. It's just too much. You might as well hit, yeah. So this is one case where you don't make the 5 point, even though 3-1, you usually make the 5 point, right? Okay. So white comes in and he chooses to enter on the 21 and hit the loose blot. That makes a lot of sense, especially since black has a blot, right? So might as well hit down, and then we'll have a chance to pick that one up too, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. And black comes in with a 4-1, not a great roll, and so it makes sense for black to make the 9 point, right? You don't want to mix things up too much at this point. A 1-4, there's just even though it seems fine, but there's no point in getting multiple checkers sent back. Black has to try to build something, and making that blocking point is quite useful at this point, right? 1-4. Okay, kind of keeps this checker a bit restricted. Okey-doke. Right, white rolls 3-1, and now, yes, you make the 5 point. As I mentioned, if you have checkers that are back like this, or 1 checker or 2 checkers, then making the 5 point makes a lot of sense. Okay, and yeah, that's natural. Right. And black comes out with double sixes, a tremendous roll. Okay. So making the 18 point is clear. Okay. And then what to do with the other two. And black thinks, well, I just made this point, and it's a great blocking point. Why would I give it up? And so he thinks it's perfectly natural to make the 2 point. Okay. And yeah, there's a certain rationale here. And as you can see from XG's analysis on ++, it's not a big error. Okay. There's a certain amount of rationale behind it. Okay. In terms of blocking this checker. But there is a problem in the resulting position. Let's look at that problem. Clear that. Okay. And if we look at the resulting position, notice that all of black's outside points are stripped. Okay. So yes, black is maintaining a good block for this move, but notice white has some spare checkers to play with. Okay. And so next move after white is able to do something, then this block is probably going to disintegrate in some way, especially this one, right? You know, these checkers are not going to be able to do much on their own, probably, unless black rolls double twos or double ones or something like that. Okay, so the problem with playing to the 2 point is that it leaves these stripped checkers. Okay, whereas if we go to the preferred move of XG, okay, you can see the difference that black all of a sudden has some checkers, spare checkers to play with that can work in combination with these. Okay, so there's more flexibility in this case, and black still has you know, an extra homeboard point, and there's still some block. It's not a tremendous block, but don't forget that if this guy runs out, there's no guarantee that white will be able to safety this. So yeah, the blockage is, yeah, it's an interesting point, but having the spare checkers in this position and not stripped points is kind of outweighs it. Yeah. Okay. So the 6-6 is a bit of a mistake. Yeah. But still a good roll for black, and black has the advantage after it. Now, white rolls a 6-5, yeah, and this is you know, a point that I've been trying to emphasize through my videos, and it's clear when you work with XG and you look at XG's analysis. Okay, it puts a huge weight on the race. Okay, if you're behind in the race, you shouldn't run, right? And if you are ahead in the race, then running is more natural. And so even if a play looks like the most natural in the world, like this one, right? I safety a checker, I basically make the 10 point, nice blocking point, everything looks great. But the problem, of course, is that white is still behind in the race. And when you're behind in the race, you want a checker to stay back so that black, if he's able to race or jump over some of your blockage, might have some difficulties, right? Because there's that checker back. But let's say he rolls double fives or double fours. Now, it looks good for black, right? But at least white, you know, won't just lose the race in this case, you know, which could be the possibility now that white has run. So keep that in mind, okay? Even though a move might seem perfectly rational and reasonable, if it doesn't fit the exigencies of the race, then it probably isn't right, okay? And in this case, as you can see, it's a mistake, not a blunder, but XG just wants to stay back, slot the 4 point, bring an extra builder on the 8 point, and wait and see. Okay, so keep that in mind. It is quite an important point if you want to play better and also improve your PR in certain cases, right? Your performance rating. Then really look at the pip count, or do the pip count if necessary before you make a decision about whether to run or not. it's a very important point in terms of improving your backgammon for the future. Okay, so white goes wrong here, and as a result, black finally doubles. Right now, I haven't mentioned this earlier, but because the score is 3-3, basically at any point, if we go to the doubling decision, right, and look at the cube, then we can see that it's very close to a cube at just about any point. Like here, let's go to the cube again, right? Here you can see it's equal, right, whether you cube or not. Okay, and basically, you can see because of the score, both sides can basically cube at any point. Okay, but so the strategy here is generally to cube earlier, and white doesn't cube immediately because he wants to get a little more advantage in a position. Okay, because white feels he's a stronger player based on the previous games and how black moved. He feels he's a stronger player, so he feels he can afford to wait, and perhaps if things turn against him, then he doesn't want to have cubed, right? But if things get into a little decent advantage, then he will. But basically black had the best of the exchanges earlier, and so white didn't cube, but black could have cubed at any point, right? So let's look here, for example, before the 6-6, again, black could have cubed, and after the 6-6, definitely he should cube here because he has a substantial advantage, and he does. And XG says it would be a mistake here not to cube finally, right? Because he's got a 15 pip racing advantage. Okay, so but of course white is perfectly correct to take this, and to pass it would be a huge blunder. It would put black at Crawford, right? And there's no reason to do that. White has plenty of chances still, as you can see. The winning percentages are 55-45 basically, right? Which is plenty of chances for white. So white takes, and so it's DMP. It's the last game of the match. Okay, so white takes, and black immediately rolls a 3-3. Again, a fantastic roll. But black, strategically makes a mistake here, right? And it comes back to this idea: when you're ahead in the race. Okay. Now, of course, you can't race with these; they're blocked. Okay, but you can clear this point, right, and bring it down, because that's going to be a difficult point to clear. Yeah, the midpoint. And if we look at black's chosen move, which is a blunder according to XG, okay, making the 2 inner board points, right, is not the right play for this strategic situation where black is ahead in the race. Okay, it certainly makes his home board quite strong, but it's kind of a racing plan here, not a build my board and wait for a shot kind of plan. Okay, which making 2 more home board points kind of indicates. So strategically, black has misunderstood the position. He should just bring down from the midpoint and then make another home board point, and then it'll be easier to at least bring more of his checkers home. Of course, he's got to solve the problem of the 18-point checkers, but at least he's cleared the midpoint, which is not easy to do unless you roll doubles, and so these doubles are a good opportunity to do so. Okay. Yeah. So again, going back to that main point, think about the race and what the race tells you about what you should be thinking strategically, what your main plan is in terms of winning a particular game, right? Okay. In this case, you're ahead in the race, so black should run. Right, okay, so white rolls 5-4. And let's go back to the arrow, right? And with his extra checker, he slots the 4 point. Okay, that's natural. And now this is another interesting situation, right? 6-3. Now the problem, of course, is that all his outside points are stripped, as we mentioned before. And so 6-3 is quite uncomfortable. And in this case, black plays safely, which seems to make sense, right? But according to XG, it's another blunder. And it has to do with a couple of things. First is black is ahead in the race, okay? So running is usually indicated. And then two, this is a good chance, white's home board position is not so strong, right? It's only 2 points made and a blot in board. So this is a good opportunity to clear one of the points, even though there's some risk involved. But remember, backgammons don't count anymore because the cube's been turned. Okay, it's DMP. So XG strongly says, no, this is not the time to play safely. This is the time to clear a point. Okay, and in this case, the midpoint should be cleared. And look at this; it even makes, even slots the 4 point. Okay, which is quite useful. And so the resulting position is this. And yes, the white has 6s and 1s to hit, but there's white points are stripped as well. Okay. There are no spare checkers to hit with. And so with the home board blot, there's a good chance there's going to be some return shots. And look at black's board. Black's board is much stronger, right? Even though there is a blot there as well, but the relative strength is in black's favor. So this is the chance for black to at least clear one of the points, okay? Because the problem, it's this pay now or pay later kind of question that comes up in backgammon quite often, right? And it's the idea that, okay, if black plays safely like this, then what's going to happen next turn when he rolls a 6? Well, it's very possible that white will have made his 4 point, right? And white's home board will be stronger. And then, leaving a shot will engender more difficulties. There's also the interesting situation that if we look at black's position, he has what's called a dilly builder, right? He'd really like this checker to be able to make the 4 point, but now, the best he can do is make the 1 point with it, and there's this gap, right? And especially when you're playing at DMP, this kind of situation where gammons don't count, you need 1 point, then you tend to want to play more purely. And having this checker here is really ugly at this score especially. So all in all, XG says black missed an opportunity to make a really good developing move, clear a point, start clearing a point, and not worry so much, right, about safety, because safety is going to be an issue later as well, unless he, of course, rolls double 5s or double 4s or something like that. And you can't count on doubles, right? Yeah, they come sometimes, but basing your strategy on doubles is not going to win you a lot of matches on balance. Okay, you've got to play the percentages. And so this is the good time to run while white still has a relatively undeveloped home board. Okay, so a big mistake there. And so we're left with this position, right? And so let's see how it develops. Okay, so white rolls 6-4, and that's quite a good move. As I said, white's home board is now stronger, right? And black is in a situation where he still has 2 difficult points to clear. And there you are, 6-4. Black has to clear one of the points, has to break one of the points. And now this is at a more disadvantaged position. And black has to do it in a way that perhaps isn't great. But notice even here, the better way to clear is going to the 8 point. Why is that? Well, there's not a huge amount of difference, if you think, in terms of the number of shots, okay? If black clears this way, 6s and 1s hit. And if black clears this way, it's also 6s and 1s, okay? Sure, there's 2 blots instead of 1 blot, but still it's 6s and 1s, right? And this also clears the furthest point, which is the most difficult point, starts to clear that point, right? And so since black is still, especially after this roll, is still very much in the racing lead, if you're going to clear, you might as well clear the back point, and especially since the number of shots has not really been increased. Okay, so yeah, it's not a huge mistake, as you can see from the analysis. It's a small mistake on ++, but again fits into that thinking that if you're ahead in the race, then you know, clear the furthest point away. Okay, and you can see that if we clear that, we can see after this move, right? The further problem again is you have 2 dilly builders, right, on the 3 point. Really ugly, not pure at all, and just contributes to leaving that 4 gap even more. So if you've got a checker here, then if it's not hit, then it could help to make the 4 point, right? So that's another reason. But yes, it does. This, you know, the reason why it's not a big mistake is that yes, it does. This move does leave 2 blots. Okay, and so it takes a certain amount of courage to do that. But I hope you understand the difference here, and to, you know, to pause and think about, you know, the strategic situation. Are you ahead in the race, and which point to clear first? Okay. So, anyways, the black chooses this move, right? Okay, and white rolls a 3-1. Quite a nice shot, but you know, he's got to leave some return shots, right, as he hits, and he correctly brings 2 down. Okay, and that at least duplicates 3s, right? So if black rolls a 3, then he won't be able to hit this unless he rolls a 3-5 or a double 3. Okay. Okay, so white hits, but it's not over, right? Black still has chances to come in, and you know, he still has the stronger home board. So black shouldn't be despondent, but white's certainly happy he hit. Okay. Unfortunately, black dances. Ouch. Okay. And white rolls a 3-2 and tidies up a little, right? Okay, makes the 10 point and gets his back checkers moving. And white comes in with a 6-3. 3-6, I should say. Okay, and of course he exits, but unfortunately for black, white is able to hit and go to safety. Now, keep in mind again that this is, you know, you don't need a gammon here, right? So you just want to just hit, and even though you're putting a 6 checker on your 6 point, you're playing for safety in this case. You don't need to leave blots in order to increase your chances of making points or blot or primes or anything like that. You just want to win the game, and this has the highest winning chances of just, you know, just hitting and pick and pass, right? Hitting and running to safety, compared to this one, right? Where yes, you have more flexibility and more chances of making your 3 point or something like that, or making the 9 point, but then you're leaving yourself open to return shots, and black still has a 4 point board, so no need to take risks. You don't need the extra points that risks might give you. You just want to win the game. Okay, so safety. And remember, this is position specific. I'm not talking about a general rule. There are certain situations where you need 2 points, and therefore, yes, you will take chances and leave blots and stuff like that because you want to maximize gammons, right? But this is not that situation. Okay, black dances again. Okay. White rolls a 6-2 and brings his back checker closer to home. And black comes in with a 3-1. Now, this is kind of interesting. Generally speaking, you would expect black to enter further back, right? But there is the problem with the 3. And if you enter on the 24 point, then basically you kind of you have to basically play 6-3, which is really ugly as well. Okay, but XG does say that's the best roll. Let's just, I see I haven't checked this for ++, so let's just check this under ++ just to make sure. See what XG has to say. I don't think there's going to be a big change. Yeah, it does like entering further back, but you notice it's not really a mistake to come in on the 22 point. One of the issues is that black isn't so far behind in the race. It's not, you know, there's some racing possibilities, right? And just being able to put that extra checker on the 5 is nice. Okay, even if you know, if it turns into a race, having an extra checker on the 5 is nice. But yeah, generally speaking, you should enter deep. Okay, and that will give you more hitting chances. Okay, white has looks like a pretty good roll, double 3s. Okay, so basically points on black's head and clears the 8 point. Okay, notice again, you know, you don't want to do fancy route moves or anything like that. It's just quite simple. Clear, you know, hit and clear the point, right? Even though it leaves a bit of a gap, right? This is the simplest way to bring the position home. Okay, black dances, so white is looking very good now for winning the match, especially after 4-3, right? He makes the 2 point. Now things are looking very dire for black. He can't enter. White comes in. Okay, can't enter again. 5-4, and white closes black out. So now it's like 97% winning chances for white. Yeah. Okay, black comes in with 6-3. It's a little uncomfortable because the 3 is blocked. So it's pretty much forced. And then white rolls 6-1. So that's fine. And he takes 1 checker off. And 1-1. Okay, so this is interesting. It's not a mistake that white makes, but remember, in this situation, you don't want to win a gammon. You don't want to keep black on the bar. Okay, because as long as black is on the bar, some accident might happen, and you might leave a blot as, you know, some uncomfortable double or something like that, and black might get a shot and have a chance to turn the game around. Okay. Right now, black is basically at 99, more than 99% winning chances, but you never know. So black definitely should clear the 6 point, which he does, but XG says clear the 6 point to the 4. Okay, to prepare to clear the 5 point next turn and give black a chance to enter on the 6 or 5. Okay, so trying to clear so that you maximize the chances for black to come in this position, because it's highly unlikely that once he comes in, he'll be able to turn the game around unless he gets just like 6-6, 6-6, 6-6, 6-6, right? Okay, so just a small technical thing. White should clear to the 4 point, and you know, clearing to the 5 point means that it's going to take time to clear that 5 point, and black might stay on the bar longer. Yeah. Okay, 6-5 is fine, but now 6-1, you can see, yeah, okay, white's cleared the 5 point, but now this is a situation where if black doesn't enter, that white could leave a shot, right? And in with only 4 or 5 or 6 checkers off, black could still win this position, right? So yeah, there are always chances if you're not careful. And sometimes you can't control it. It's what the dice give you, right? Okay. But black can't enter. So white's a little nervous, but he does roll a 3-1. Okay. So he's able to tidy things up. And then black rolls a 6-5, and now it's pretty much over, right? There's no way that black's going to catch up. White takes off 2 now that it's safe, and black does get double 5s, but it's just not enough, and it's gin for white. Okay, and pretty much over. Bang, bang. Double 5s again, but yeah, it's much too late. Okay, so white wins the match. And if we look at the, this is the game PR. Okay. White played better in the final game. And then if we look at the match PR, then again, there was a big difference in terms of the PR, where white played below 4 quite nicely, but black unfortunately made quite a few mistakes with checkers and not too many, but some doubling and some cube errors as well. Okay. So anyways, hopefully that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the whole match, but this game in particular, right, showed you, kind of hopefully gives you some more insight into playing, where it's DMP, gammons don't count, and you're trying to play more purely, and certainly, racing considerations are first and foremost, and don't worry too much about playing as safely as you normally would at this score, right, because gammons don't count. Anyways, look out for my next post, where we'll start a new match, quite an exciting match, and some real back and forth. Okay, so hope that was helpful. Hope you got some learning points from it, and thanks for following me and hopefully being a subscriber. Thanks.